All right, everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. It is 6:04. I'm going to let my co-hosts here know that if they see any new folks try to enter the meeting, to go ahead and let those folks in.
Liana, you want to unmute?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tim. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If anybody else joins the room, please feel free to let them in, Tim and Renee. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're so delighted you're here. We're excited to keep this project moving forward for Abbey Creek Park and additional amenities and talk about the concept plan with the neighborhood. My name is Liana. I recognize a lot of the names in the chat, so welcome. We're glad to see you here. I work with THPRD and community engagement, and I'll be facilitating this virtual meeting. We also have a number of team members here with us today. I'm going to turn it over to Renee soon for a presentation. She's our project manager. We also have Tim Bonin, who's our manager of design development. We'll introduce him in a minute. We also have a couple consultants joining us, Jamuna and Jonathan from 2 Inc. So they'll be on soon to help with the presentation as well. So I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge all the community members who are joining us for this meeting, whether that's live at this moment or later on YouTube. We deeply appreciate your engagement. Soon, Renee, our THPRD project manager for the park development, will be giving us a presentation on the concept plan. And as she does that, I wanted to invite anybody.
You're mute. Sorry, your mute went out again, or you got muted again.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure how that happened. Thank you. So as we move forward through the presentation, as that Renee is going to give us in a moment, if you have any questions or comments to share, please share those with us by adding them to the chat. We'll be making time to answer those questions as we move through the presentation. If we know we're going to address your topic soon, but we haven't yet come to that topic, we might wait to that point in the presentation to be able to share those visuals, etc. And if for some reason we don't have an answer for you today, we'll be happy to follow up with you at a meeting after the meeting, excuse me. If you're willing to share your email in the chat, you can directly address it to me in the chat and we can follow up with you. I also want to announce, as many of you know, that we are recording this meeting and we'll be sharing it in our community project webpage. So that provides another avenue for community members to be able to learn about the project. And you can find the link to the webpage in the chat, as well as Renee's email, if you'd like to follow up with us by email after this meeting at any time. I also want to note that we're keeping cameras and microphones off for this meeting, as well as the chat. You can use the chat, but we'll be keeping that muted as well, just to ensure that the meeting is safe and friendly for all ages. And then what I'd like to do is jump right into our presentation. But first, I think we'll introduce Tim. Tim, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself and then hand it off to Renee to get us started?
Certainly. Thanks, Liana. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm glad you're here. My name is Tim Bonin, and I am the Interim Design and Development Manager. Renee?
Well, hello, I'm Renee Brucker, Park Planner and Project Manager for Abbey Creek Park Phase 2. I'm very excited to be sharing this preliminary concept plan with you tonight. And Liana will actually start out with our little talk tonight. So let me get that slideshow up for you. All right, is everyone able to see?
Not yet, Renee.
All right. Go ahead, Liana.
Oh, we don't see that yet, but I can pull it up if it's not coming up for you.
Well, I have it up on my end.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we will.
You're not seeing it, huh?
Nope. Not seeing it.
Should I end it? Should I end it?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. I can pull it up.
Did you find it?
There we go. All right. Can everybody see the screen now? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to share with everyone that we feel like is important for every single project we ever do at TH Purity, including park development. We always want to make sure that we're addressing our vision action plan goal areas. And the vision action plan was something that we worked with thousands of community members across the district to engage community members and understand better what we as a district need to be doing in order to fulfill the community's needs. And so there are 4 major areas, and we focus on those anytime we're developing a park. So we're thinking about us individual neighborhood, but we're also thinking about that big picture, how a park fits into the larger picture of the district. So the 4 major goal areas that we're always focused on are welcoming and inclusive. So ideas that center on building community and expanding the role of THPRD. We think about play for everyone. Are there opportunities for all different skill levels, ages, and abilities at a park? And are we providing that as much as we possibly can? And then accessible and safe. So that includes maintenance, equipment, and access. And then also preserving natural spaces. So ensuring that spaces that are natural are being preserved and people can enjoy that access to nature. If you're ever interested in learning more about this, it's really foundational to how we function as an organization. You can go to our webpage and learn about it there. So just a really important. And then I will hand it over to Renee.
I have a question for you, Liana. My view doesn't have the ability to move forward and back. So if someone could take that over for me. This vicinity map, you've probably seen it before. We're showing Abbey Creek Park in the center of the rings in red. Each ring represents a half mile, and it's about a 10-minute walk to the park from the first ring and about a 15 to 20-minute from the second ring. As you can see, Springville Elementary is within a half a mile, as well as some other parks and future parks and trails, actually. Next slide. The aerial map here showing the existing site. Abbey Creek Park is approximately 1.3 acre site, and it's surrounded by single family homes to the north and east. The circle is the location of the playground. There are grassy slopes surrounding the site on the north and the east sides. There is a level area north and most of the play area and near the west of the play area, and a wet area in the northeast corner. Both of these maps can be found on our webpage. Concept plan. To develop the preliminary concept plan, we had a lot of fun celebrating in the park and enjoying a summer evening with the community. These pictures depict a wonderful time had by all. We engaged over 700 community members, including families, kids, teens, and all ages, in workshopping amenities for the future concept plan. We also offered a community survey for neighbors who couldn't make the event. This immense amount of input helped guide drafting of today's preliminary concept plan. We started our community engagement in March with a virtual meeting. We introduced the park and the project. And in June, we involved a couple of simultaneous efforts, a survey and a drop-in neighborhood event that we just showed photos of. We are in the concept review phase now, and we have presented the preliminary plan to the internal design team, made up of representatives from the design and development group, maintenance, and safety services at THPRD. We also presented to the park and facilities advisory committees. That's made up of members of the public, and to our THPRD management team. So input gathered from all of these meetings guided us to revise the concept plan to what we will show you today. We will consider all comments from tonight and make any necessary adjustments to the plan before we present a preferred plan to the board of directors in November. So right now we have a survey open to the community, and that will be open until October 17th, I believe it is. And then we are going to come back in November, December to refine the details for the teen and play areas. So you'll be seeing another community survey out there for you to provide more input to those amenities. So we had a few questions come up in our survey, and one of them was, what amenities in the neighborhood park? So let's define a neighborhood park. It's 2 to 4 acre size, so not a huge area. Abbey Creek, like I said, is only 1.3 acres, and so we're a little bit smaller than the typical. The neighborhood parks may include play areas, small active recreation areas, picnic areas, and open grassy areas. And you'll see that kind of at Bethany Creek Neighborhood Park is a park that has those types of amenities. Whereas community parks are much larger, 8 acres or more. They may include multiple diverse activities and amenities such as splash pads and programmed sports facilities. These sites serve a wider variety of recreation needs and support a larger number of community members throughout the district. So with that size and the use of community parks, it supports, we need more support services there. And one of those is providing parking for the people coming from further across the district. Now I am going to ask Jamuna to review the preliminary concept plan with you.
Thanks, Renee. Hi, my name is Jamuna Golden. I'm the project manager that's been leading the design effort at Tuning Studio with our team. And I just want to start off by saying that putting together this plan was really, really exciting in part because of all the community input that we got from the workshop, the event a few months back. And it was really exciting to talk to everyone and hear all their excitement about the project and hear so many wonderful ideas. And we've had, kind of had to sift through that and choose some of the ideas that had the most comments on, and we've integrated them into the plan. So as you see right now up on screen is Abbey Creek Park, including phase 1, which is in the center where the gray circle is. And then phase 2 is pretty much the rest of the park. That is the colored plan. Starting south of the existing playground, one of the things that we heard a lot about was play for all ages. And the 2 types of play that we've or multiple types of play we've incorporated. One is something that hasn't been seen much in THPRD parks, which is an area for teens. And this area is on the south side, and we're building on this kind of rolling landscape from phase 1 to create a bermed area with a perch for teens and older kids or kids who don't feel like playing on a playground to hang out, having fun seating, and something like a picnic table or something like that, something that's kind of graphic. And then moving up to the north side of the existing playground is at number 11, if you can see it, is the toddler play area. So that would be a playground for little kids. We heard a lot of comments about the play area now not necessarily feeling safe for kids, you know, from the 2 to 5 age range. So that would be an area for that age range kids. And again, you'll have opportunity to input what type of play structures or play equipment may be in that area. And then to the left of that, where number 8 is a covered shelter with movable picnic tables. So it's kind of a flexible area for picnics, but also, you know, for other park programming that can happen in a covered area. And just building off that, a lot of what you can see is there's lots of trees on the plan, and part of that is because, you know, shade and protection from heat is a big thing that we heard about, and so we have lots of trees planted on the plan, and then an option for one or multiple like sail type shade structures to either cover the existing playground or cover 1 or 2 of the new play areas. And within that as well, you can see in 12 and 10 around the periphery. The other thing we heard about was and saw interest in was more naturalized environments that were something besides just grass that we're planting. And so we created a little bit of a planting buffer between the houses and the park, and some planting areas around the playgrounds and the covered areas. So as people go for walkers on the loop path, they have the ability to be around more naturalized and native plantings. So as leading on to that, there's the loop path that goes to the west of the site out around a big open flexible play field. And then there's a little bit of kind of plaza space in between the toddler play, the existing play, and the covered area, just as a flexible space. There's also a connection up through the existing neighborhood at 6, where there's stairs going up, connecting as a neighborhood connection. Yeah, and I think, Jonathan, I'm not sure, do you have anything that if anyone has anything they want to add to that? Otherwise, we can move on. There's also some benches, you know, just seating around the loop play area and seating around between the playgrounds. So parents have places to sit as they, you know, watch or hang out with their kids near the play areas, and bike parking and their amenities. I think we can move. Okay. Yeah, and then so just to make it, you know, I know that little diagram is a little small maybe for you to see, so just to make it really clear, where you see the orange triangles, we're thinking something like the shade sails that could cover play areas, and the rectangle on the plan is something like a lean to shade structure where it's angling down to create plenty of shade from a more permanent type structure. Next page. And then the toddler play area, you can see it a little better in the yellow circle. Again, we're thinking it might be swings. There was a lot of comments about bucket swings or safe swings for younger kids, maybe spinners, climbers, things like that. We will get more into the detail of what we can put in that area once we get feedback from you all, and then also just looking at budget and making sure it fits within our budget as well. And the teen zone is, I think a lot of people, maybe you guys remember from the event in the park, of just a lot of people, a lot of the kids that I saw, a lot of kind of older kids were kind of interested in this idea of just a hangout zone that's not a playground. And so just kind of thinking of combining these elements you see in images like, you know, ping pong and like, you know, creating a little bit of a nook area by berming the grass and around this area, and maybe tiered seating so people can, you know, the kids can kind of climb up and perch up high and look out and have some fun seating, and maybe play surfacing that makes it more graphic and kind of lively.
And Renee, I think the slide's for you. You might be muted.
I was muted.
Aha, gotcha.
Sorry about that. So we talked about a teen gathering area. So why were we looking at that? Well, what Jamuna was saying, you know, we heard from the teens at the event that they were interested in having a place where they can go and kind of hang out and visit. They also wanted to more activities for teens who aren't necessarily into sports or don't play sports. We are also guided by our THPRD community visioning, which encourages us to provide options for all ages, interests, skill levels, and abilities. We also consider what's happening in the neighborhood. And this graphic here shows the basketball courts in the neighborhood within the mile radius there. We have Paravera Park that also has pickleball courts. And then PCC Rock Creek has quite a few tennis courts. And this is all within, you know, a mile radius of Abbey Creek Park. Next slide.
Renee, you know, I'm going to pause this here. We've got a couple
Okay.
questions in the chat that I think are topical for this for these slides. So the first question is would you all consider putting in a half court basketball or tennis court? I think you've talked a little bit about why you know, why there's why you've chosen a teen area, or why we've chosen the teen area based on the input that we've gotten from the community event when we talk to teens there. Do you have any more to share, or maybe Tim, about why we would consider, or why we would put the teen area instead of the basketball, and if there's, you know, basically in response to that question? And then there's another one I want to ask too from the chat.
Okay. Yeah, so we do get a lot of questions about the basketball, and we know it's a very popular sport for teens and various age groups as well. However, we're feeling like we need to spread out and provide some more unique and interesting places for our young people to gather and be their own little community. And we're looking at doing something different, unique at this site. And that was one of the options that we had, was to move forward with a teen area. Our programming representative was excited about providing a different type of zone for the teens, because teens move from interest to interest to interest. And so having a place that's a gathering spot for them, as well as flexible enough to do different activities there, is kind of what we were looking at for this site.
And if I understand correctly, it was in response to teens bringing up that idea during the community event specifically.
Yes, yeah, I had a number of teens come up and say that would be what they would be interested in, is having a kind of a gathering spot, seating, climbing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we heard that a lot when we went through when you went through the comments.
Yeah.
When you summarized all the comments and looked at all the different comments across and the different numbers of those comments. Yeah. Tim, did you have anything to add?
Sure, I would just add that we also got to think about scale. With this site, it's more like a pork chop. If we were to put on a tennis court, pickleball courts, or basketball court, that would take up most of the site. If you could even fit it on there, that existing playground area, and we're talking about, you know, having additional play for toddlers as well as teenagers, and the shade structure, that would really all have to go away to try to fit a court on that spot. So it is, we kind of look at the scale of the site too. And again, knowing what's going to happen in the future. Again, there's already some basketball courts and tennis courts around the area, as well as pickleball you mentioned at Party Bar. And we have a community park that will be built here in the future as well. And community parks, again, as you mentioned earlier, a much larger scale, something we anticipate as a destination that people will drive to, where we would put in those larger facilities, again, like tennis courts, pickleball, basketball.
Thank you, Tim and Renee. And then a follow-up question, a couple of follow-up questions here. So the questions, I think you've just actually answered this, Tim, but the full-size basketball court or a tennis court, it sounds specifically that would be, your answer would be in reference to those as well, correct?
Sure. And again, like we want to put as many amenities and offerings into each park we built, and then we would sort of lose that, right? That balance of, we would just have it basically a tennis court, maybe a little bit of open space, and not much for the rest of the community to enjoy. So again, we're just trying to find that right balance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And then I think the other questions we'll cover as we move forward about construction. So I'll get to those when we move forward, and I'll go to the next slide here. Open field. So I'll turn it back over to Renee and Jamuna.
Yeah. So the open field area, and this really is about just having flexible play space, and but also now that it's kind of incorporated into this loop trail, to have a space where, you know, kids can take out little scooters, ride around the loop, run through the field, and just offer a lot of flexibility in terms of, because it's not big enough to, like, let's say have a soccer field, it's just the park's not big enough to still be able to get out there and like kick a ball or hit a ball or something in the space that, the flexible space that provides.
So I'm going to expand upon that. Why an open lawn space? Like Jamuna said, it's a very flexible space, and it allows for many different activities and passive recreation, as well as spaces for families for their celebrations, and where they may want to bring in a bouncy house or bring in portable games and be able to have a space for that during their celebrations. And then also our programming team may hold classes there or free events at the site. And that happens more often when we have an open grassy space for those types of activities. So in a big field, well, big field, it's not a very big field, but a field will, allowed for those types of uses. Okay.
And Renee, we did have a follow-up question. Why a loop path, like instead of like a basketball court or instead of something else, why would we have an open lawn and a loop path? And I want to understand better in relationship to the community, what you heard in the community input that during the event. Did you hear input about the lawn? Did you hear input about a path? Can you tell us more about that?
We did hear comments about having open space and grassy areas for play, for all kinds of play, and having the variety of uses with this is immense. And then as far as the loop path goes, that was also something that was brought up at several of our meetings and surveys. Is a loop path allows for people to walk, stretch their legs. Kids can learn how to ride their bikes or trikes, scooters, and that kind of thing on these trails. And it's a safe place for those types of activities. And then also, just got to get your steps in. So it's a safe place also for walking amongst your neighbors, playing and all the activities happening on site. So it's one of the most used and popular activities in our parks that do have loop paths.
Thank you, Renee.
And then the last thing is just more planting. And as you can see now, well, one in like part of our park, and as you can see now in the first phase of Abbey Creek, there's a lot of lawn and open area, and there were a lot of people who stuck dots on images that has some more naturalized planting, kind of break up the lawn, and so that's something that we really wanted to integrate in. So as you're sitting and enjoying the park, you're also enjoying a little bit more naturalized setting with plantings and lots of trees.
And then Renee, I think this is your slide.
Is, and I was talking. Again, muted myself. So the timeline for this project, it started in the spring with our community engagement. We're now entering the fall and winter of 22-23, and that will include approval of the concept plan by the board of directors. We'll work through the permitting process, and we'll finalize construction documents and prepare the bid for the project. We plan to advertise the bid for construction in the winter of 23 so that we can break ground in the spring of 24 and have the park constructed and completed in the fall of 24. I did see in the chat a question about how will the existing playground be shut down during construction. And yes, it will probably be shut down for the entire construction of the new park, because it is somewhat centered in the middle of the activity of the contractors. So to keep the community safe, we will need to shut the park down. So, and that would probably be a 5 to 6 month shutdown during the summer of 2024.
Thank you, Renee, for answering that question about the play area, the shutdown. From the team, anything else to add to that, to the timeline? Okay, I do see we do have some additional kind of comments and questions in the chat. I will get to those soon. Let's jump into our next slide here. All right, so we do have some other questions in the chat. I think actually I'm going to jump to those first, because then we can wrap up the presentation. So a question from a few different folks, specifically a couple more questions about a half court, doing a half court basketball. I know we've talked about Tim shared about the space, as well as we have a question about, someone shared that they don't have any courts nearby them. And so I thought it might be helpful to, based on that question, or based on that comment that person doesn't have any courts near them, it might be helpful to go back up to this other slide. And what I think would be helpful to have Tim and Renee, and Tim, maybe you have sort of some big picture ideas about this, as well as you, Renee, is in a typical neighborhood, how many basketball courts or sports courts might we have when we look at a half-mile radius? How does this neighborhood, how do we compare to other areas of the district? And how do we spread out those courts across the district and in certain neighborhoods? Any comments or thoughts on that, Tim or Renee?
I don't know that I have a statistic to share with you on how many courts. We'd have to pull that off our GIS system. But we do consider that again with this particular site on what's available close by. And with the slide looking at Springville Elementary, they're within a half-mile away. So you're looking at a 10-minute walk to get there, as well as the new Paribar Park. So again, we hope with this park to do something really unique, you know, with the teen zone, and make it a space that is more universal, because those are pretty standard amenities, and I understand that there may not be one right across the street from you, but just to have something a little bit different in this neighborhood that would be unique to the site.
All right, great. Thank you, Tim. Anything else to add, Renee? It's okay if you don't. Just wanted to leave space. Okay. All right, I'm going to move forward in the presentation here, and we'll come back to some of those. So just to wrap up, and before we get to additional questions, if you are interested, want to get other folks involved, please do learn more at the project webpage. We did put it in the chat there. We do have a survey open on this proposed concept plan. It will be open until October 17th. So if you know folks who weren't able to come to this meeting, people in your neighborhood, friends and family in the neighborhood, please encourage them to take that survey and share their input. We will also be sharing this survey and this presentation of course, on the webpage. So if you want to share this recording with any of your neighbors or friends in the area, please do, and we'll post it soon. But the survey is posted there. So let's go to additional questions. Let's come back to the chat. And in fact, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see the chat better and see, everyone can see us a little bit easier. Okay, so looking in the chat, just rolling back through to see what we might have missed here. I think there's this question that is asking about, you know, what happens if there continues to be interest in basketball, tennis, or pickleball courts. And so, you know, I think maybe to thinking about the community input that we've received so far, we have input kind of all across the board. And so what we do is we take all that information and we sort out like how many comments are from teens for a teen zone and how many comments are for these different things, and kind of get a general idea of how many comments are asking for pickleball courts. So if we have 1 or 2 comments from the entire community engagement event that we did, out of the hundreds of comments and you know, over 700 people we talked to, and actually hundreds and hundreds of comments, we will look at that. We'll look at that variety, right? And so if we only have a couple, like 2 or 3 in terms of one amenity, we won't necessarily change a concept plan for you know, because there are a few folks who want a particular type of sport. We typically look at that whole big picture in the information we get from the event, and we look at the whole big picture across the district and across the neighborhood. So that's again kind of what it comes down to with the different sports, offering different sports. And then Tim and Renee, feel free to run through the chat with me, make sure we've covered everything. Oh, could you please share the survey results? So yeah, that survey is open right now. And so what we'll do is, like I say, we'll close that on October 17th. And we will learn more about what we hear from the community at that point too, between the comments that we collect today and then the comments from that survey, and then we'll put it all together. So we'll get that information after October 17th, towards the end of the month. All right. Any other comments there, Tim, Renee, that you see, or questions? We'll record the comments for the meeting.
I don't see any additional ones. I just want to mention that we did get a lot of community input, a lot of ideas, and it is sifting through so many ideas. And, you know, we have an acre of land to provide a park space for everyone to enjoy. And we try to get as much value out of it as possible. And this is what we're working with right now from the community input that we got. And I think you'll find that it's going to be an exciting little park to have in your neighborhood.
Tim, did you have anything else to share? Jamuna, Jonathan, before we wrap up?
The only other thing, and Renee mentioned it earlier, is that there'll be an additional survey, right? So this one will close based on the preliminary concept plan here, but we want to further explore the play area and the teen area as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim. So as I understand it, there will be additional survey. There's a survey open right now. And then once that one closes on the concept plan, we'll be reaching back out to the community for more details about the play area, more details about the teen area. So the exact activities that are offered in that teen area right now are still to be determined.
Correct.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think that we've addressed everything that's come up in the chat in terms of questions. I think what I'd like to do now is go ahead and wrap up. I'll turn it over to Renee for final comments. Renee's email is in the chat. If you want to reach out to her individually, you can reach us by phone or email through the webpage as well. We've got that information posted. We're happy to answer emails, but we're also just happy to talk to you over the phone. So if you have direct questions for us, you can always give us a call. Or if you feel like you have questions that you want to follow up on tonight that you want to learn more about, you can call us. You can talk to us over email or phone. So great. I'll turn it over to you, Renee, for final words.
Thanks, Liana. And thanks everybody for coming tonight and attending the presentation. Appreciate your comments and input, and we look forward to seeing the survey results and sharing those with you at a later time. It's so important to get your feedback for a successful project. So if any questions or comments arise for you after the meeting or after watching the YouTube video, please feel free to email me and I'll be happy to get back to you. And Liana has shared everything on the chat, or it's on the webpage. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Great. We'll look forward to getting a concept plan out to share with everybody again soon. Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you for everybody for being here. Take care.
Thank you.